Okay, great. So recording has begun. And let me go ahead and just navigate over to my slides. Present now, entire screen, share. Okay, everyone sees my screen okay? Thanos?
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay, so it's still morning over here, so good morning in some places, good afternoon and good evening. Again, my name is Michael Grant, a teaching fellow with the Google News Lab. I'm based here in Mill Park, California, which is about 15 minutes from the Google campus in Mountain View. And you know, as you know, we are all working from home, and it's really great to be able to huddle around a Google Hangout and do trainings like this. It's really great to be joining the group, and today's topic of discussion is Google Earth for storytelling. And maybe I can ask folks to mute their microphones for now. At the end, we will go ahead and take questions. And this is, in this particular training, I want you to do mostly observing, and because it's going to be a recorded training, you will be able to go back and try these tools out for yourself and you know, follow the video from this training. And some of you may not have access to Google Earth Studio, which is one of the products that we're going to show today, but that's okay. I will direct you to a page where you can request access, and if you're really excited about the tool, then we can email the team, or I can do that on your behalf, and we can expedite your entry into the tool. But we'd love to have you take a look at the tool and use it for yourself. And really quickly, let me let someone in. Okay, great. So I'd love to start with a word from Google. And Google is on a mission to organize the world's information and to make it universally accessible and useful. And this is really reflected through a ton of Google products. You probably know Google is, you know, our bread and butter is search and making finding information through search easy and useful. But you'll notice that this really is go throughout our product line, and that definitely includes Google Earth and Earth Studio. Also, the Google News Lab is part of the Google News Initiative, and this is our effort to build a stronger future for journalism. And we do this through 3 channels. The first is by elevating and strengthening quality journalism, and so that's mine and Maggie's job. And so as teaching fellows, we train newsrooms across the country and around the world. There are about 40 teaching fellows scattered throughout the world, and Maggie and I are the 2 US fellows servicing all of the US. So it's a really fun job, and but it's all about elevating quality journalism and being able to put tools in journalists' hands and help them along in those tools. Next, evolve business models and drive sustainable growth. This is reflected through, you know, challenge projects. So those are always exciting. The North American challenge closed recently. So if you visit our Google News Initiative website, you'll be able to keep up with some of the new developments for challenges. For instance, Google's also, you know, building products, so we empower news organizations through technological innovation. And so things like search are things that we've already built for the world to use, but there's certain products that really work well for journalists, and oftentimes we'll even build new tools that have journalism in mind or journalists in mind. And so those 3 ways are or those three avenues are ways in which we're really trying to help support journalism. If you want to level up on your ability to use Google tools, you can always go to the g.co/news training website. And this is a really great place. We offer courses in a ton of different avenues of journalism. And so there you will find things like environmental journalism, investigative journalism, data storytelling, how to use Google Maps and Google Earth, and so on. And so we won't be able to cover everything that these tools have to offer today, but a lot of that you can find on this website. And all the trainings are come free of charge, so you can certainly use them in your own time, level up your abilities, and even get a certificate at the end of that, which I think is really great for putting on things like LinkedIn or your website to show that you've completed these things, you have an understanding of how to use these tools. So today we're going to dive into Google Earth Studio and Google Earth Web. And these are really exciting products. I am a longtime user of Google Earth, and I've kept up with its developments over the years. Please would you mute if you can? Maybe I'll have to do that in a minute. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, so these are really great tools, and they've come a long way. And so today I'd love to peel back the layers on just how much the tools have changed and what they've developed into. And I think you'll find them really exciting. So Google Earth Studio is a new animation tool for Google Earth satellite imagery. And so if you're familiar with Google Earth in previous versions, there's a desktop version, you download it, you enter an address, and you create renderings of cityscapes or locations in the world. This is now an all-web version of Google Earth, and we're calling it Studio. Reason why is because you can see it really does give you a full set of studio-like editing features, and so it's a really exciting tool. At this time, what I can do is go ahead and play a video just to tease out and preview exactly how this looks. It's really beautiful. Give me just a second while I load this up.
Michael, I think you are muted. We don't hear you now. Do it.
Michael, you're muted.
Sorry about that. It auto muted me.
Now we
So,
can. No worries. It happened.
all right, great. Let me just run it back. So Google Earth Studio is great for locator maps, timeline events, and establishing B-roll shots. So you're going to want to use this tool as a means to capture visuals of the world or of a location, and you can incorporate those visuals into your storytelling. And so that can be for broadcast or for maybe interactives on your website or maybe explanatory graphics. So it really is a powerful tool for getting visuals where, you know, you might need a drone or a helicopter view or, you know, someone situated on a roof to get these kinds of shots. So it's a really great way to center people on a place or a location that you want to share with your audience. Google Earth Studio doesn't cover every inch of the world. However, there are lots of locations that we have 3D imagery for. So this is just a quick snapshot. I think it's a relatively old snapshot of the location. So we're always adding more. And all it takes is for you to type in the location to check and see if there are 3D imagery available in that location. And you can visit g.co/Earth Studio to sign up for Google Earth Studio. Another thing I just want to illustrate here is using these imagery for storytelling. And so in this example, if you're already familiar with Google My Maps, it's a way for you to create paths. And so in this example, we have a marathon, and we simply drew a path in Google My Maps, and we're able to bring in a KML file. So this path would export as a KML file. And we can bring that into Google Earth Studio, and you'll see that it's able to be layered right on top of the surface here. And so that's another way that you can sort of add contextual information to your visuals that you produce in Google Earth Studio. Another really creative way, this is just an example, I believe it comes from the New York Times, and essentially they are walking us through locations on Mount Everest and chronicling the journey of hikers through you know, this corridor of the mountain. And so it's a single camera view, and as you scroll, it allows the video of the image to play. And so with just a little JavaScript, for example, you can come up with some really compelling ways to tell your story. Okay, so Google Earth, so Google Earth, so there's a web version of Google Earth, and this also allows us to do things like create some of those paths. So you could use Google My Maps to create paths and shapes, or you can use Google Earth to do that, and I will show you how that works as well. And here's again where you're going to want to go is g.co/Earth Studio. So I am going to navigate there. Okay. So yeah, we're going to start with Google Earth. And go ahead and drop in a link for you as well. Now, Google Earth is accessible. You don't have to sign up for it. There's a link there. And it's a really beautiful landing page. It kind of teases out you know, some of the imagery that you can produce. And here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to take a look at how to draw paths and shapes so we can draw on a map. And you can do a couple other things like place photos and share, you know, what you've come up with. But we're going to focus a little less on this as a tool, and we'll really focus on how we can use it in combination with Google Earth Studio. So when you're here, you can click on this big blue button that says Launch Earth. It'll take a quick minute to load. Okay, great. And right now it's dropping me off at a place that I've been in the tool already. So this is San Francisco. And on my trackpad on my laptop, I'm just using my 2 fingers to zoom in and out. And you can see here that this is the Bay Area. And when I get in closer, this is downtown San Francisco. All right. And so this is really cool because if I hold down the Command key on my Mac, and then I click and drag, you can see how beautifully detailed these views are in Google Earth. There's the Bay Bridge, and it's really up to me how I want to position, you know, my camera to see, you know, the view that I like. And this is Salesforce Tower, so really iconic building now in California. Great. And so we can use this tool to draw on the map, which is really nice. And if any of you have been to San Francisco, you'll know that the Ferry Building is just a really wonderful location. There's lots of food, and you know, tourists love to be there. There's outdoor markets. And so you know, we can zero in on places and draw shapes. And so right now I'd like to illustrate to you how you can draw a shape in this tool. All right. So top left-hand corner, you have a menu. And in order to start drawing shapes, I need to create a project. So I'm going to do that. I'll call this new project. I'll create it in my Google Drive. So that means when I start a new project, it will save to the Google Drive, and that's how we're able to go back to our project and make edits. So I'm going to create this in my Google Drive. And now it says it's saving and it auto-saved, and I can go ahead and title my project. So I'm just going to call this demo demo day, right? And so now I'm ready to start drawing on this map. And the way you get started with drawing on the maps is to add a new feature. And so I have the ability to search for a location, but I've already found the location that I want to draw over. I can add a place mark, or I can draw a line or a shape. I'm going to focus on drawing a line or a shape. Actually, I'm going to draw a shape specifically. Okay, so now you'll notice that my cursor has turned into a plus, and it says select starting point. So this is the ferry building, and I'm just going to draw a box around the ferry building. And so I just click and make a shape around the ferry building. And then when I want to close that shape, I just go right up to the last dot there, and it says close shape. So I click, and now my shape is closed. I'm going to call this ferry building. And I'll hit save. Great. So now I have a shape. If I want to edit this shape, I can just hit this pencil tool here. And now I have a number of different things that I can do here. What I'm going to focus on is the outline, width, and color. So right now this is a 4-point yellow. I think I'll make it this like tiger orange, and I'll go 8-point, just to really make that explicit. And it shows that there's a 25% fill color, and I think that's a little hard to see. What I'm going to do is make it orange, and I'll go 50%. So now you can really see that. And I think what's really awesome about this is that the 3D shapes sit right on top of the fills that we're creating and the shapes that we're creating. So it looks like a highlight. And that can be really useful for calling out details that you want your audience to focus on. All right. Okay. So I'll go back and I'll do one more thing here. I'm going to draw a line, and it's going to go from the ferry building down the street here. Maybe to this one. And then when I'm done making my shape for my line, I can just press return here, and I'll say pathway. I'll call that a pathway. Great. And I think this should also be like a 8-point tiger orange line, just so that we can see it. And let me just adjust that a little bit. Okay, great. All right. So now that that is complete, I just want you to remember now that we've created a path from the ferry building all the way to that building down there, right? And wait, really quickly, I'm just going to figure out what's the location of that facility. Give me a second. Salisbury. Looks like Pier 29. Okay, great. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to our project. I'm going to go to this More Actions area right here, and I'm going to export this as a KML file. All right, and so what that did was it downloaded a KML file to my desktop. And a KML file is basically these shapes saved as a file that we can now use in other programs. And so in this case, we're going to bring this KML file into Google Earth Studio. And KML files already have what's called geolocation data on these lines that we just drew. And so that's how it's able to know where we drew the lines. And so when we import them into Google Earth Studio, it will fall right into the right place and everything will look fine. So at this point, let me go ahead and navigate to Google Earth Studio. All right, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link here for you all to sign up if you don't already have access to Google Earth Studio. And so in this tool, this is what we can use to create animations for our scenes that we create in Google Earth Studio. All right. So going here will allow you to sign up. If you don't have access, you'll have a form. Just simply fill that out. And again, if it's urgent, I can email the team for you to get immediate access or access pretty soon. And if you already have access, then that's great. But what we're going to do is hit this Try Google Earth Studio button. And this is the landing page for Google Earth. All right. And so when you're ready to start working in Google Earth Studio, you can start with a blank project, or if you hit this drop down here, you can do a quick start. And quick starts are really awesome because they give us these pre-built ways to start with. They're like views that are kind of pre-rendered. So this is a zoom 2, and it gives you a preview when you hover over it. And so that might be nice for, you know, establishing a shot for broadcast. Here's an orbit view, which might be really nice for game night or, you know, something that's happening at a particular location. Point to point is really interesting as well, because you can kind of go through a sequence of points. Next, we have the spiral. That's a really nice contextual shot. I see that kind of thing in like soccer games or football games where you want to kind of feature the arena. And then we can hit this arrow over here, and they have one last one that's called Fly to and Orbit. Now this one's one of my favorite ones because I just love how the camera flies into a location and then lets us kind of, you know, pan around that particular location. But in this case, I think I'm going to do a point to point because I want to go from the ferry building to Pier 29. So I'm going to select that. And let me zoom out here. And I'll hit start. Great, and now it's asking me to select my first point. So I'm gonna go ferry building. There, and so it's found the ferry building. And at this point, I believe I can, again, situate my camera. Let's say I really like this view of the ferry building. Yeah, that looks cool. And then I'll hit this green button. And now I can go to a second location. So I'll do here in 29. And I'll situate my camera maybe like right. And maybe like right here. Because now I can kind of see the ferry building in the background there. All right, cool. Oh, that was interesting. And so essentially, it's already kind of created a way for us to go from one place to the next. We can edit the amount of time it takes to get there. So by sliding this left and right, we can add how long that sequence takes. And so now it's nice and kind of slow, or at least it's slowed down a bit. We can also say how long it should take for the camera to zoom in and out from the first location and the second location. And then it's just going to loop for us as well. So we can kind of see the final rendering. And so once I'm okay with how this looks, I can say, great, I'm just going to hit this checkbox here. Awesome. So now all of that has been established for us. And if we wanted to really get finite with our editing, we can drag this timeline slider here and make edits on the actual sequence. But the first thing that I'm going to, or the next thing I'm going to do is add that KML file to this rendering. And so in overlays, and this is a menu item, overlays, it says import KML. So I'm going to upload from computer. And this should be in my downloads. I called it demo day. And voila, now we have a wonderful overlay attached to our view here, right? And so when I press play, this is when it starts the animation. This is when it starts to come back down. And this is where the animation will end. Isn't that cool? So this is all customizable at this point. Why don't I hit pause here? And so again, you know, you can get pretty detailed about what we want to edit. You know, maybe sliding certain parts where they happen, you know, at a little slightly different time. You can see like the this is for latitude and longitude here, so we can change these things. And so with just a little bit of familiarization with the tool, you can do some really great edits to it. The last thing I'll say is it may look complicated, but I kid you not. If you were to spend maybe 30 minutes, you know, a couple times a week, just kind of playing with the tool, you'll get really good. But one of the really great ways to get good at teaching yourself Google Earth Studio is to visit the help area. So we're going to go over to the documentation. And this is really, these are really great instructions for how to use Google Earth Studio. So there's an introduction. There are tutorials. they're all like in video format, so you're really gonna get visuals that you can follow and understand really easily. We even have best practices here. So, you know, it's advising you on, you know, kind of the better ways to use these things. And so I highly encourage you to have fun and have a look for yourself and try these kinds of techniques. There's lots of techniques that that are really at your fingertips, and all it takes is for you to spend a little time with the tool. So I highly recommend you do that. And the last bit is about attribution. And so by default, the tool will already add attribution to your assets. And what I mean by assets, I mean when you export your project, it will already come with a watermark on the imagery that you cannot remove. However, I'm going to show you how you can at least move it to a location that you would like for that asset, for the watermark to land. So let's say I'm satisfied with this rendering, right? Or this, this established view. Now I want to render. So I'm going to hit the render button. And, oh, I need to be in the public version. That's fine. So by default, first you can give yourself a name, like a project name here. So I'm going to just call it demo. I can choose a folder, but the format that you're able to download this in is JPEG. And so what it's going to do is it's going to save all of these as a JPEG. Now, because I have access to a more advanced version or earlier, I'd say like an unreleased part of this tool, I can export this as a as like an MP4, but you won't be able to do that in the public version right now. However, there is a way to take these JPEGs and turn them into a video. And so let me grab that for you. Hold on a second. Oh, here it is. So this is to convert the JPEGs into an MP4. So there's a script on a Mac, and then there's a program for a PC. And so let me go ahead and just drop those into the chat for you right now. You will have that for your own use later. That is a script on a Mac, and this is a program on a PC that you can download. And I'll just quickly kind of explain here what we have. So the script download allows you to essentially install the script on your local computer. And when you go and look at the folder with all the JPEG images in there, you'll have a services menu item, and then you're able to say, you know, what kind of video file you would like. So if you want 60 frame per second MP4 or 30 frame per second MP4, you'll be able to do that right here. So your system will run a script, will run the script, and it will convert that folder into an MP4 file. And in this case, this PC program, you simply download it, and I believe you just bring your sequence of JPEGs into the program, and it will mash them together into any one of these file formats right here. So I think that's a Windows Media, Flash, Movie, or MP4. Great. And then one last thing, just as part of the you know, the Google Earth family. I think these are always kind of interesting, and so Google Earth Engine is just a really incredible place to see places in the world, you know, and maybe environmental implications, or in this case, the Aral Sea. You can actually watch it dry out over time. So I'm going to go ahead and share a link to the time lapses with you. That's one of my favorites as well. So at that link, you'll see that there are a bunch of different time lapses that you can download or get a YouTube video version of it. You can have labels or no labels. You can download it as a GIF. And so these are a bunch of locations in the world where there's already a time lapse available. One of my favorites are Las Vegas. And I'll just navigate there. And you'll notice down here there's a like a play button, and it starts at 1984. So for all these time lapses, they begin with imagery, satellite imagery, that starts in 1984. And it just goes year by year. And so, oh, this is a place in Nevada. Hold on, let me go to Las Vegas. Oh yeah, so now we're closer. Okay, so this is Las Vegas in 1984, right? And I just want you to see how incredible it is to see how much it's changed as of 2018. So we'll hit the play button, and you can see the sprawl happen over time and how dense that cityscape became. Really interesting. So this is one of my favorite Earth tools. You can even do this for, like, let's say Bay Bridge, San Francisco. This is also one of my favorites because, you know, earthquakes are, you know, very unique to our region. And, you know, there is a huge one some time ago. I don't remember the year. But you'll see that the Bay Bridge span was rebuilt. And so you can see, I just paused it, how like the rebuilding part. So maybe that was around 2000, 2001, 2000. So you can see it starting to be formed here. Very interesting. And now they're removing the old span right there. Isn't that fascinating? So I love these things. They're just a couple tools that I thought you might enjoy. And we're now about 10 minutes out, but I just want to share a couple more really great places where you can keep up with some of the newer developments. There has been some activity here around Google Earth and earthquakes. And so this is just a blog post about some of the work that's being done to alert people of you know, what they felt. And so I'll go ahead and let you read about that here. And wildfires are not only a nuisance in California, but there's a ton of places in the world where wildfires are, you know, really an issue, and you know, covering them takes tons of resources. And so this post talks a little bit about what it's like to map wildfires with the power of satellite data. And this may take a little bit of coding resources for some teams, but if you have a relationship with a team that you know, that may be interested in doing some like live mapping of fires, then they can turn to this post that will really give a really nice introduction about how Google is helping to connect people with critical information around active wildfires. And so there's really scientific ways that are being used to create maps that give us an idea of the location and scale and, you know, like the bounds of the fire. So this is just a really interesting post, and it also talks about how we can put that information to work in surfacing contextual information in search. So I'd love for you guys to take a look at that. And here's a Medium post too, where it gets really technical, you know, about how to pull that off. And so, you know, here's some, I believe this is JavaScript, but that would be something that you could probably just share with your dev team if you have one. But let me go ahead and share these with you as well, because it's just great reading, it's super interesting, and I think it's super relevant for what we're talking about today. So it's the Medium post. All right, there we are. Okay, great. So that concludes our training for today in Google Earth and Google Earth Studio. If you're interested in more trainings like this, all you have to do is go to g.co/news training, and you know, we're never able to get to every part of a program or every part of a tool, but again, there's tons of trainings that are available at the News Training website, and we update them pretty often and frequently. So go ahead and give that a try. It's free. It's totally free to use, and see if you can, you know, try some of the examples that we provide there.
Thank you very much, Michael, for your time to present this training program to our members of our community. And we will follow up with all of you with the video and any other material that Michael will share with us. So we will share it with you. We will renew our appointments with Michael and Maggie, hopefully sometime in September. We will follow up on that, right, Michael? We do have some other series that we are preparing. And see you all hopefully next Wednesday when we have our next training program with Microsoft News. We will follow up with all of you anytime soon.
Yep, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Take care, and thank you for having me, Thanos.
Of course, thanks.
All right, bye everyone.